One of our residents, Harold Krieger. Harold is here, and Harold, if you would stand up and give us a wave. There we go, thank you. If we could give Harold a round of applause. Harold's been just a great, a helping citizen, and Harold's always out lending a helping hand, clearing out snow at some of the bus stops and other spots around town that are hard to get to, and is really just a great citizen and really helpful. So we really appreciate your help, Harold, and want to give you a hand. Thank you.
The gentleman walking, trying to get past me, he said, "You're a good Samaritan."
We need more good Samaritans. Thank you so much. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll declare a pecuniary interest with regards to item 11A, as I'm employed by the Alzheimer's Society.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Body.
I'll be declaring a pecuniary interest with regard to 12A3. It's on the consent agenda, so I'll be voting for everything with the exception of that matter is with regard to my employment and clients.
Okay, thank you. That's noted. Anyone else? Seeing none. Confirmation of the minutes, please, from December 16th.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Wright, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held December 16th, 2013, as printed, be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a resolution moving council and committee of the whole, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Wright, that City Council now go into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence. The City Council now go into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We're now in committee of the whole. We do not have any public meetings scheduled for this evening. We do not have any deputations, public question period. We do not have any members of the public who would like to ask a question this evening. And we do have a series of correspondence items. What's council's direction, starting with 11A? Councillor Lemon.
Yes, Your Worship. I believe that we should support this initiative. Alzheimer's and other degenerative diseases are a horrible, horrible thing. Everybody, I think, has had somebody in the family who suffered from senile dementia, Alzheimer's, or whatever name it goes by. And I think that we should have explicit policies that will aid the person with the dementia and the family to support them and as much as possible within their homes. And the statistics are astounding. I did not realize that it was 1 in 10 seniors. And I believe that the proposal to establish a show our support for the resolution, as many municipalities have done, is appropriate.
Okay. So the motion is to support the resolution provided by Sudbury Manitoulin. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We can get Councillor Twaddle to come back in. We have a letter from the Township of Mulmer, which is a request for the resolution support respecting assessment of properties. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Question to the Director of Finance. This resolution specifically is about assessing properties buildings that have been built without building permits. Is that a concern in the City of Owen Sound?
Through Your Worship, certainly it's always a concern in any municipality. We certainly do our best through our building department and MPAC to make sure that all construction has a building code and those are passed on to MPAC. But it is always a concern and something collectively we keep our eye on. So I'm not overly concerned in Owen Sound, but we try to keep our eye on all those type of situations.
I move that we receive the correspondence and forward it to finance for the finance committee for their information.
Okay, Councillor Lemon.
Yeah, one of the areas I'm particularly concerned is where additions are put on houses without building permits, which has gone on in the past. Hopefully, it's not a problem now, but those houses would have an increased assessment when they add on several rooms, which has happened. And sometimes they don't think they need a building permit for some strange reason, which I don't fully understand. And I think that we should, that finance should certainly look at it, and anything to capture any tax revenue which we're entitled to should be taken.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have 11C, this is the annual AMO membership invoice. This is based on 99, just under 10,000 households. Councillor Body.
I move that we pay our fee to Association of Municipalities of Ontario so they can lobby the provincial government on things like the township of Mulmar's assessing properties, et cetera. There's just, it's interesting they've come together. There's a prime example of why we have AMO and why we're a member of it.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. I shall advise council at this time that the president of AMO will be attending a council meeting early this spring, and I'll give you a couple of weeks advance notice of that. However, if you have specific issues you want to bring forward to the president and the CEO of AMO. We have a letter from OGRA. This is a poll, the OGRA Board of Directors. It's a slate that they're putting forward. Councillor Wright.
Motion to receive.
Okay. Any discussion? Motion is to receive. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a letter from Lyle Clark, Executive Vice President from Stewardship Ontario. And this is the industry funding that municipalities, Owen Sound here, receives in terms of Blue Box contribution. Perhaps Mr. Ritchie or the clerk would have the Director of Operations. Thank you. Director of Operations would have the amount that the city will be receiving.
Through your worship, certainly the amounts we've projected for 2014 is $89,748. But in the past, 2013, we received $162,000, 2012, $162,000, 2011, $162,000, and 2010, $130,000.
So a significant difference. Councillor Lemon, thank you for that.
Maybe I wasn't hearing it correctly, but has the amount gone down this year that we're receiving?
It should be roughly about the same. That was for the first half of 2014. We're predicting about 90,000. So it's hard to predict what we're going to actually get before we get it, but we usually do make good estimates. It's all based upon the market value as well. So.
Thank you.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I just wanted to comment that when we were in Orillia doing the First Impressions programs, they were using some of their empty storefronts for municipal information. And one of the thoughts was around bringing a lot of awareness to our recycling program. Like we could have visually what goes in your blue box. I know that we have those out, but it wouldn't hurt to have more public awareness of that, because there's it's a slippage, just that some people are just not keeping up with the recycling that could be done. So I'm just wondering, as just a suggestion, that that's one of the things they had used, some empty storefronts for public education, and it would be in partnership with the owners, but through the DIA we could do something like that.
Something that Operations Advisory Committee,
I
I
guess
think
would go
would
there, would it?
most likely discuss at
Okay.
their
Thank you.
agendas. And good idea. Sure. Further discussion? Motion to receive. Who made that motion? How about Councillor Body?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a letter from Brian Milne, Grey County Warden, with regards to the 2014 Wardens Forum. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I understand what Warden Milne's trying to do by expanding the Wardens Forum, but really, my experience at the Wardens Forum has been that it's for very broad interest issues, and quite frankly, although it's good information, over the years, not a lot of the issues that have been raised have really moved forward. I think, however, having the warden and the CAO visit each municipality once a year gives each municipal council or individual members of those councils an opportunity to raise issues that are more municipal specific than you can get into at the Wardens Forum. So while I find the Wardens Forum interesting as an opportunity to discuss broader issues, I think the idea of having the warden and the CAO come and address specific concerns that are raised by local municipal councils is really important, and I wouldn't want to see that opportunity lost. If he wants to expand the Wardens Forum to deal with more specific issues, I think that's fine, but I think it's important that they come. Besides which, it's really the only contact once a year that the citizens of Owen Sound who watch council on television or stream live on have an opportunity to see what county council does, because at the street level, county council is a fairly invisible organization. So I think it's important that they continue to come and show the flag, as it were.
Certainly, Councillor Adair.
Just following up on that, the warden does say that should you wish for me to come, and I think that we should formally invite them. I think the Wardens Forum itself is useful in the broad strokes of at least getting all of the municipal politicians in Grey County together in a room. Perhaps it can be improved by having a little bit more opportunity to network and maybe some 2 or 3 specific issues that people can talk around. But I think that just picking up on what Councillor Twaddle said, we should put out an invitation to the warden and the CAO of Grey County to come and visit us.
Okay. Number of speakers. Councillor Body.
And my notes are similar, suggesting that he does both expand the Wardens Forum, and if we need it, I'd move that we send a formal invitation to to Warden Milne and the CAO from the county to come and visit us.
Perfect. We have a motion. Thank you. Did you have further comment? No. That's okay. Councillor Chamberlain?
No.
Councillor Purdon?
Yes, I support the motion. I'd also like to see some thought put into the Wardens Forum. I agree it's a very nice time to meet other municipal politicians in the county, some of their staff and the warden. It feels a bit, the Wardens Forum often feels a bit open-ended, or it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So if there's a way to have a more structured or maybe small table discussions or something that allowed us to maybe to look into some of the topics that are of interest to us in a little more detail, at least we could learn from one another in a forum like that. May not change policy, but it lets us get to know one another better in that forum. So I certainly support the motion and the Wardens Forum, I think, and I'm pleased that the new warden is asking for this kind of feedback as well.
Councillor Lemon?
Yes, Your Worship, I strongly think we should be and will support asking the warden to attend to one of our council meetings with the CAO, because I think there are some concerns we have as a municipality, and it gives us a chance to focus on those. As an example, the move that came forward last year about removing most of the county roads from the city, that hasn't completely gone away, it's my understanding, and I think that we would certainly like to discuss that with them. We pay a large percentage of the tax, the county levy, and I think that it's good manners to come to the people who are paying the way for the county. And I think this motion is most appropriate, and I'm hoping that he will come, because I'd like to find out what's going on.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just listening to the comments of my fellow councillors, I think maybe we've been missing the boat here for a long time, that we probably should be bringing a report from county council to council at the meetings to keep council up to date on what is going on, so that Councillor Lemon would know what is going on with the traffic study and roads and those sorts of things. And maybe we've been amiss, I've been amiss at not coming and reporting what is happening at county council, and I know the minutes go out to all of us, the agendas go out to all of us. I'm certainly open to any of you that have any concerns or comments that you want to pass on to me prior to a meeting, or to the mayor. We both attend we each sit on 2 of the major committees, and I'd be quite happy if you called and said you have an interest in a particular issue that's on the agenda, or the minutes, or you want to follow up. And if not, I'd be quite happy to do a report for council, if that would be the wishes, just to keep us up to date.
So we have a motion to invite the CAO and the warden, and I have to say, really good discussion here, and really excellent comments in terms of the value of the Warden's Forum, and for the average person, just what does Grey County Council do? And I think those are really very valid and salient questions. At Grey County Council just the other day, in fact, we did have a discussion about bringing Grey County Council more into the awareness of members of the public. And that's something that the county is turning its mind to. My comment was having more members of the public participate on committees would be one way to draw more public awareness around what happens at Grey County Council. So these are really excellent comments, and certainly I echo Councillor Wright's comments that everyone receives all of the minutes and all of the agendas and so on, and if any member of council at any time, and many of you in the past have, if there is a particular issue that you see, you certainly do share your concerns with us. And while we do go with the best interests always of Owen Sound, I can tell you that we do want to hear if there's concerns or specific issues that you want to be sure that are addressed at the county. So we'll get that invitation. We'll probably do that so that they come sometime when the snow might stop flying.
June.
So maybe early spring. Oh, and I hope it's not June. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a series of reports and items on our consent agenda, from polar bear dip rules to some minor variants and notices, landing notices, Georgian Bluffs. Councillor Chamberlain.
I'll move the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. 2 items from there, and I'm not sure if this is the point the clerk was bringing up additional items. The first one is on the information package about the appeal by Heritage Grove.
Yeah, 12:18.
Would this be the time to discuss that?
Absolutely.
So if I might, and we received notice of the appeal by Heritage Grove of the official plan. So there was a lot of discussion about that when it first happened, so maybe I'll ask the Director of Community Services maybe just to go over that correspondence or exactly what it's all about.
Thank you, Your Worship. The letter from Amber Stewart withdraws the appeal by Heritage Grove to the city's, or the county's approval of the city's 5-year review of our official plan. So the good news for the city is our official plan is now in full force and effect. We had whittled it down to about 6 or 7 policies that were under appeal. So the plan's now in full force and effect. That's good news for the city.
Indeed. Councillor McManaman.
That is good news. Did we change our official plan for this appeal?
There were no changes required in the plan in order for the appeal to be withdrawn.
So at the time when the discussion was raised that they were appealing this, and now they've withdrawn their appeal with no changes by the city. And there still are, just to be clear though, there still are some matters that they're appealing?
There are 2 appeals that remain outstanding, and those are with respect to council's refusal of a zoning amendment application, as well as council's approval of the site plan. So the appeal is to the conditions. A hearing has been established from April 29th to May 8th to hear those matters.
Okay, thank you for that information. My second comment or question was about the correspondence we received from the Y and their fundraising committee on a sort of an interim report on the Regional Recreation Center. And I do think we've all received it, but I think it's important to highlight some of these points. Why did we get into this in the first place? And just briefly, it talks about over 6,000 people are members or participants in their programs in the last year. 6,055. That's up considerably.
Yeah, that's great.
As far as active communities go. 838 of those people, 13%, are subsidized in some way. So that's also good news. That was a question that was raised a long time ago about how are we dealing with people that can't afford it. 600 new swimming lessons are being offered. 600 special needs participants are now on a swim team. Expanded lacrosse tournament this past summer. 2 expanded hockey tournaments, 5 I'm going to not say this properly, swimming meets. I guess they are swimming events, 5 new events, over 300 participants coming in the city that weren't here before. The big one that stood out for me, and I actually called the Y to make sure I had this right, they said they had an 85% increase in seniors in their group. 85% increase. So I called them to ensure that that was before I said it publicly, and they said, actually, no, that's not correct. When it was published, since then, it's actually 95% increase since it's public. They have 784 seniors that are participants, members of the Y. By far, the largest seniors group in town,
That's
I
fantastic.
would suggest. So it's just, I've just sort of given a highlight. This report is available on the city website. Certainly you can get it from the Y as well, but I think it just highlights some of the questions that we were all asked as this project was going forward. The proof is here. A number of them have, those questions have been answered, and resoundingly so, I would suggest, especially in that case of the seniors. So just wanted to highlight those points. Too often we spend so much time talking about difficulties here at council, we don't highlight some of the positives as well. So that's all, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McManaman. I was relying 100% on you to bring those highlights forward, and thank you. They're very good news stories. Councillor Twaddle.
Well, I guess I qualify as one of those seniors, unfortunately, but the one thing that impresses me is how visible the activity is, and I spend quite a bit of time at the Y with my grandson, and I'm really impressed at how many grandparents are there with preschool grandchildren taking part in the programs in the gym, the unstructured program in the gym, and the unstructured program in the pool. Extremely popular. As a matter of fact, I was in there between Christmas and New Year's, and both the gym and the pool were packed. It was almost too crowded in one sense, but it was absolutely wonderful to see how many people are in there, and certainly it's been a very positive experience for me and my grandson, and I think that applies to a great many people who are there. It's amazing to see how many people are taking advantage of it at all hours of the day. from 6 o'clock in the morning until it closes at night. It's great.
Great. Counselor Chamberlain?
Yes, and just because I moved the whole agenda, consent agenda, I in no way wanted to be taken for granted the what I think about the why, and that report, I really appreciate both the comments by the other counselors, and we all can be very proud of that facility. It's quite interesting how wonderful it looks as you come by. We were talking about the signage, and we thought about the signage being out in front of that building as it comes by, and we did talk about that indirectly at some of the other meetings. We're hoping that the signage board will come to fruition in 2014.
Counselor Purdon?
Just wanted to add that we did the first impressions with Aurelia, and one of the things they noted in the report is that they want to have a recreational center just like ours in Aurelia. And that's a city of 33,000, and they want one just like ours.
Well, there's a great resource of knowledge around this table and in these halls. Counselor Lemon?
I can remember when this was coming forward and there were projections from Y staff of what would happen to the enrollment. I thought those are being a little optimistic. They weren't. When you talk about a 90% increase in seniors participation, that is absolutely fantastic, and I do know it's busy there. I just didn't realize there'd been that much increase. I knew there'd been an increase, but it's fantastic to see. And I think it does justify what we've done. One question I've got, have all the deficiencies been taken care of? That was the question I was asked a couple weeks ago.
City Manager, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Lemon. We are working on those, and we will have further reports.
Okay. Thank you, and certainly all those comments, I couldn't say more, and I won't belabor the point at this time, but I have to say that with the rec center, Julie McArthur Regional Rec Center, and the tremendous success the Family Y and the arenas are enjoying, combined with, do not forget, the former Y location on 2nd Avenue East is now up and running and open and populated with 200, just shy of 200 jobs. And those are jobs that are in Owen Sound, and that's the Bruce Gray Child and Family Services organization, formerly known and always probably will be known as the Children's Aid Society. So we have repurposed a building, and a lot of people involved in making that happen. So a lot of congratulations to a lot of people in both those projects. Thank you. In favor of the motion, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the city clerk, and this is on our public appointees to boards and committees. This is the time of the year that council is fortunate that we have members of the community who want to volunteer their time as well and join with council members and staff in making informed decisions and shaping the look and feel of their own communities. So we have quite a roster of recommended appointees, and we'll just go through this one by one, starting with number 1. Councillor Boddy.
I'm just wondering if we shouldn't just move it as one as Schedule A as recommended. Do we have to go through each one individually?
No. We can do it all at once.
Seems to me.
Absolutely.
If you would like, I will move the recommendation that appoints everyone on Schedule A, which is several people to several different committees and for different terms. Also want to take the opportunity to thank people, members of the public that have sat in the past and their terms are ending. This city would not function, this city hall and this council would not function without the input of the people we have in the advisory committee from throughout the community. It's great getting some new people on and some people that have been there for a couple of years back on to carry on the expertise. So I move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. One of the things that really impresses me about Owen Sound and the way we approach decision-making is the fact that we invite members of the public to join us on the advisory committees. There are very few municipalities around us that have such a broad public involvement. They may each have one or two committees that they have public members on, but virtually every committee that provides advice to council has public members, and I am constantly impressed with the breadth of talent that these public members bring to the committees, but also the different perspectives and the point of view, and by how seriously people take their appointments, and how much attention and how much detail they put into helping this council make decisions. It's one of the real joys of sitting on an advisory committee, is having all of these other points of view come in and help us in our decision making.
Thank you. Councillor Dare.
I was just going to say the converse of that is also true. Many of our citizens who have sat on these committees get a whole new appreciation for how the city works. I've had several people who have served a couple years and that on committee saying, wow, we were actually really discussing the issues and people had new ideas and stuff. So yeah, that's what happens. It's not just here every other Monday night. There's all these committees out there with public participation, but I think by being involved, it helps many citizens understand how this all works and how things end up getting to us in the evening.
I think many of us around this table at some point in days long ago probably volunteered on a committee or a couple of committees of the city in order to really sort of test the waters for the depth of commitment we were prepared to make. So I think it is a great way to learn a lot about how the city runs and what makes it tick. We certainly are lucky with our volunteer inventory, shall we say. Okay, we have a motion. Councillor Purdon.
Just wanted to add to that I think the committees and the active participation by the volunteers, and we have a great slate here, really keeps us as a city grounded in the experience of the people who live in the city, so we don't get lost in bureaucracy or all the rest of it. And I think we are very fortunate to have as much uptake on the committees, and that the committee meetings, everyone I've been on, they're really an egalitarian feeling, like there's input coming from all directions, and I think that's a very, very important part of that process. And I'm saying this because for people who are watching at home who never ever thought of being on a committee, it's not as intimidating as people might think, and there's a great need for the expertise of people in our community on our committees, so I really encourage people to consider that maybe in the future.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report 12B2. This is from the clerk. This regards to council appointments to boards and committees, and my computer has just gone to sleep, so I'll ask the clerk to, if the clerk could just introduce this process to council. I'll wake this thing up. Excellent.
There we go. Thank you. So what will take place is the first item will be a lottery, which will be drawing numbers from an envelope. And those numbers will dictate the order in which council will make the choice of boards and committees that they are going to sit on from now until the end of the term on November 30th. The numbers will also dictate the order in which they will sit beginning in February. If the mayor and the city crest behind her, it will be numbers 1 through 8. When you are choosing, it will be the person with number 1 choosing first up to number 8. Number 8 will choose twice and run back down to number 1. And those councillors who are already sitting on a committee for either a term that is longer than a year or a mandate that hasn't been completed may use a pass at some point if they would like to not choose a committee. And with that, we can begin if you're up for it.
Okay, let's do item 1, which is council seating selections.
It's the same number, right? How do we determine who picks first?
Same way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Draw lots.
You do, like at fundraising events, you do the heads and tails and then process of elimination. We'll give people at home some real entertainment.
Depends on people knowing which end is up.
That's, yeah.
Go to my seat. Oh, so we just flip.
Flip. That's funny.
I've never been on the left wing before.
Oh, not gonna touch that.
Okay, could we have a reveal, please? Okay, starting with Councillor Lemon. Is that the way we should go? Councillor Lemon?
Yes, I'm number 2.
Number 2. Councillor Purdon.
I'm number 7.
Number 6.
5.
Councillor Chamberlain is 6,
Mhm.
Councillor Trottle is 5, yes.
Councillor McMahon.
3.
4.
1.
And I guess I'm still here.
That's awesome. Isn't that funny? Yeah. You don't have to take those snacks out of your desk drawer or anything. There you go. Okay, motion, do you want a motion at the end of all of this? That's good, okay. And now we have the appointment of committees, which you'll need to hold on to those numbers.
You just assigned them,
In other places far, far away, that does happen, but best not here. Yes, that would be handy. Yeah. Two, 7, 6, 5, 3, 4, 1, 8. But I best have it in writing. Yes. Thank you. Okay, starting with Councillor Body.
First pick, Tom Thompson Art Gallery.
Okay. Councillor Lemon.
Yes, my first pick is going to be the Operations Committee.
Okay. Councillor McManaman.
Recreation and Parks.
Councillor Wright.
Planning.
Councillor Twaddle.
Operations.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Conservation Authority?
Councillor Purdon.
Economic Development?
Councillor Adair.
We can't keep, it's
Oh,
hard
s-
to find them on this sheet.
Okay,
To find them to fill them in.
Okay. The clerk's also doing it, so I'll just slow the pace down a bit. Sorry. Councillor Adair.
Operations and Finance.
back up to Councillor Body. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Purdon. Yeah, thank you.
Cultural advisory.
Councillor Chamberlain?
DIA.
Councillor Twaddle?
Planning?
Councillor Wright?
Finance?
Councillor McMahon?
Planning, Your Worship.
Councillor Lemon?
I'm going to take Owen Sound for nonprofit housing.
Councillor Body?
Planning is full. 1, 2, 3, yes. Economic development, please.
And one more.
Back to me. Finance.
No, there's now.
So the red line indicates full? Okay. Councillor Lemon?
Economic development and tourism.
Councillor McManaman?
Bylaw Committee.
Councillor Wright?
Bylaw?
Councillor Twaddle?
Rec and Parks.
Councillor Chamberlain?
Bylaw?
Councillor Purdon?
Bylaw?
Councillor Adair?
Culture?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm writing it down.
It's a great program.
And recreation.
Okay. So, culture and recreation. Councillor Purdon?
DIA?
Councillor Chamberlain?
Prevention of falls?
Councillor Twaddle?
DIA.
Nope.
Oh, it's done, I'm sorry, okay. Fire services.
Councillor Wright?
Fire services?
Councillor McManaman?
Owen Sound Community Fund.
Councillor Lemon?
Accessibility.
And back to Councillor Body.
Fire services.
That one's now complete. And another?
I'll pass then.
Okay. Councillor Lemon?
Family physician recruitment.
That's now filled. Councillor McManaman?
I'll take my pass here.
Okay. Councillor Wright?
I'll take my pass.
Councillor Twaddle?
Festival Northern Lights.
Okay, that is now filled. Madam Clerk, oh, we still have Councillor Chamberlain.
I'll take my pass.
Okay, Councillor Purdon.
Accessibility.
Okay. And I would say that's complete. If members of council can just go over these in the next, perhaps the
I
clerk
will
would
send
like to
this out as a
comment.
follow-up,
Thank
and
you.
everyone can take a look.
Yeah, just to confirm as quickly as you can with the clerk's office that these are all, in fact, correct. Thank you. That was a swimmingly excellent process, I would say. Thank you. Yes, Madam Clerk.
If I might have a motion to direct us to bring forward a bylaw with those appointments.
Yeah. Moved by Councillor Adair. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you.
Just a question.
Yes.
Trade deadline? Normally, there's an opportunity, so the clerk will give us a little bit of, like, by when would you like to know?
It's up to us, but I would think if you could get that done by Thursday, it would be helpful.
Yep.
I'm sure. Is that amenable with all of council? Any? No, but it's important for our bylaws that we get the right people in the right places. So Thursday at the latest Friday of this week. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Twaddle. It's a good point. Sometimes we leave and we take a look at schedules, and there are conflicts here and there, and if you can trade off with other members of council, it really does help. We have a report from the Manager of Accounting Services, and this is on the transfer payment agreement. And this is the provincial funding, $2 million for the 8th Street East reconstruction project. What is council's direction on this, please? Councillor Purdon?
I move the recommendation that we execute the transfer payment agreement between the city and province of Ontario.
Mm-hmm. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a report with regards to the the transportation gas tax agreement. Councillor Twaddle.
Once again, if we want the money, I move we sign the agreement. And we want the money.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting. Thank you for that motion, Councillor Twaddle. It's interesting that on page 122, or page 2 of the minister's letter from the Office of the Minister of Transportation, point number 3 talks about the opportunity for municipality to receive gas tax funds on behalf of another municipality. And this is something that if a neighboring municipality was interested in receiving public transit, perhaps, into their municipality, if they were to sign a simple agreement with the City of Owen Sound to do so, the city would then be in a position to receive the gas tax funds that they currently would not be receiving. So this is something that when we go to things like the Warden's Forum, or we have discussions with our colleagues, we may want to continue to bring this to their attention. They could get more information on this and perhaps take advantage of the funding that is in place that wouldn't put a burden on their own local municipal taxpayers. So, Councillor Purdon.
I am in support of the motion. Just a question about the way these the funding is calculated. It's a combination of ridership and transit and population. I think it's 70-30. If we're in a state of transition right now with our transit, would there be implications for us if our ridership falls, or on what numbers are they basing this grant, would it happen this year if there was changes in our ridership, or would it be a following year that we'd have to consider? That's just a general question about ridership numbers.
Through your worship, we report those numbers to the MTO, so the ridership change would be reflected in the next year's allotment. Is that correct, Kate? Yes.
So it is important for us to keep our ridership numbers at least at this level if we want to receive this amount of funding in the future? Just
Correct, your worship.
Councillor Lemon?
A question through you, if I could, to the Director of Finance. If, for instance, municipality X, which they had some commercial areas or whatever, wanted to have transit, can they predetermine how much, or can it be predetermined how much grant they would receive of gas tax towards the cost of that transit?
Through you, your worship, I think we could probably come up with a reasonable estimate of what that would be. And it would be an estimate, but I think we could be fairly close.
And the other part of it would be, this could happen without them having to put money in. It could be just a gas tax transfer, or would they still have to put money in?
I would believe we'd have to look at that, your
Yeah.
worship. I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
comment much further on that.
No.
Thank you.
I think the opportunities are there, but I wouldn't want to go so far as to say that there wouldn't be any contribution required by the local municipality. But there certainly would be this opportunity for gas tax funding. Anyway, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. We have a report from the Director of Community Services. This is the new sign bylaw, which has been a long time coming and is finally here. So the new fees. What is council's direction on this? Councillor Burden.
I have a question about this, just in terms of the fees. This is a report on the sign fees. And I was just curious about the real estate sign. There's quite a big increase in that. If we could get some more information on how those numbers came about.
Thank you. Through your worship, you'll see the current fee is $50 per agent or $450 per firm. This allows a company to have an unlimited number of agents or and an unlimited, really, they can have signs for each of their properties as per the bylaw. So depending on whether it would be cheaper for them to do it per agent or per firm, staff considered it a reasonable amount of money. They don't come in and get permits for each of the signs that they place. They simply place them in accordance with the bylaw. So they receive an annual invoice for that fee.
Councillor Burden?
In the past, the firms paid $50, and was that the same as for an individual?
That's correct.
So both individuals and firms were $50?
That's correct.
Councillor Lemon?
One question I have, we see a number of people who are selling their own properties. We see those signs. If someone puts a sign up to sell their own property on their own property, do they have to pay a sign fee for that?
It's a very good question, through you, your worship. I don't have the bylaw in front of me this evening. I'd have to look at the definition of a real estate sign. Potentially, someone could, I guess, if you're selling your own property, I'd have to look at the various definitions. I'd really have to get back to council with an answer to that question. I don't know.
I don't think a motion is needed, but I would like a report on that, because it sort of, I was thinking about this when after I read the agenda some time ago. The other question I've got in respect to signage, and that is, we have a proliferation of signs directing people to open houses and things like that. Does that require to have a real estate sign definition or a permit?
That would fall under the definition of a real estate sign.
Thank you.
Councillor Lemon, you're suggesting a verbal report back on that? Yeah, thank you.
It's just a question that has never been addressed in my knowledge.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Councillor Purdon?
I would move the recommendation for the new fees for the signs.
Okay. Councillor Blatty?
Just one question for staff. Given that they use the word agent there, but it may be per person, it may cause confusion, just asking your opinion on whether we would be safer to table this matter till next meeting, till we have an answer on what the bylaw says, or if we should proceed.
Through you, Your Worship, we could leave out the real estate sign section in the absence of a number of the fees. There'd be if you left out the real estate sign piece from the amendment to the fees and charges bylaw, the rest of it could move forward, and staff are planning on transitioning tomorrow. And then we can provide some clarification with respect to the real estate signs for the next meeting and do a subsequent amendment to fees and charges. Those are billed once annually, so delaying that by 2 weeks won't impact implementing the new bylaw.
Councillor Purdon?
Yes, that's fine, amending the motion.
Friendly amendment, yeah. Okay. Councillor Lemon?
The other question I have has to do with portable signs. The city uses portable signs quite often up at the fairgrounds, the Julie McArthur Rec Center area. Do we charge ourselves for that? Do we book an expense through, or do we just put the sign up?
Through you, Your Worship, I believe that sign may be, I was going to say it may be owned by the Festival of Northern Lights. It's used to present community messages. I'm not aware that there's a sign permit fee paid for that sign, but.
Thank you.
Councillor Chamberlain?
Well, yes, and because this will be a bylaw, I would assume that this would be monitored by the bylaw officers, and that's how we would find out about that. Okay. Good work, though.
Further discussion around the motion as amended? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Bylaw Committee minutes. Councillor Dare.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I will move the Bylaw Committee minutes. I just have a couple of comments. We've heard quite a bit about first impressions, where we went to Aurelia, and some people from Aurelia came here, and there was quite a bit of back and forth. One of the things that we had reviewed at Bylaw, and actually had been something that had been going on for quite some time with the DIA and police services, the Bylaw, and parking, is the issue of signage, parking signage in the downtown. You will see from the minutes that despite the fact that all parking issues are supposed to be dealt with in October, we will be dealing with 2 parking issues in the downtown at our April meeting. One is to hopefully consolidate when you can and cannot park on a Saturday and Sunday, so that Saturday and Sunday are treated the same. What that outcome might be, I don't want to presuppose that. But when you only have such a small, limited space to put information out to the customers, differentiating between Saturday and Sunday and weekends and Monday through Friday does cause quite a bit of confusion, and is very hard to put onto a limited space. The other issue that we will be dealing with in regards to parking in the downtown, which is the overnight parking during the spring, summer, and fall, there is a great deal of inconsistency from street to street in the downtown as to whether or not you can park and what the signage is about that. So just to let the council know that those two parking issues will be coming forward and will not, we will not be holding off on those until October, because I think it's very important, given the information that we have, that we move on those. The other is in the issue of warrants for crossing guards. We have made several recommendations. There are recommendations in here about adding 2 new crossing guards. However, those do have budget implications for 2014, so I'm not quite sure how council wishes to handle that. The recommendations are based on the fact that a warrant was, or a gap analysis was done, and that having a crossing guard at those locations is warranted. But I'll leave that up to council to decide what they wish to do with that.
I believe, Madam Clerk, should these, the minutes pass with a minimum of 6 votes in the affirmative, that would trigger the acceptance of that, the addition of the 2 traffic or crossing guards. Correct. Councillor McManaman.
I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but that, without knowing what that budget implication is, that wouldn't we need to know that first?
That's up to council, but I would.
And Mr., if I might, just before we, so we did this, the crossing guard study. There were no, doesn't mention any being removed. Did we already, I'm thinking of the ones that were at lunchtime on the...
There are no longer any crossing guards on duty there are no lunch times, so there is no longer any crossing guards at that. So last year there were some significant changes made in when the crossing guards are there, and there was some savings in that. We also, the staff looked at a couple areas where we thought we might be able to remove a crossing guard, but the numbers are just at that point where it would still be warranted to maintain a crossing guard at a couple locations. So this does have a budgetary impact. However, the bylaw committee is not the finance committee, and so we didn't make any, there were no budgetary numbers in here because that's not what we were doing. We were looking at, is it warranted to have one there?
I'm going to go to the Director of Financial Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our results from 2013 budget to actuals for crossing guards, we actually had a significant surplus there. I believe it's probably due to some of the changes that did occur in 2013. Having done a fairly quick review of this, I am confident that we could make this change, and the actual effect on the budget that was presented, although not accepted by council yet, would be insignificant if you wish to make this change.
Okay. Thank you for that update, Councillor McManaman.
Just further clarification, the report just talks about 1 crossing guard, and you mentioned 2? I thought it was just 1, or if there's a second one.
Perhaps the other committee members, I was under the impression there were 2, but I'm going by memory and not actually reading what's here, so.
I think, I wasn't at the meeting, but I think from what I read, there's a new one, but one is going to be maintained, not get rid of it.
Yes, thank you.
So it's 1 additional and reaffirming the other at 7th Avenue, and 16th Street?
I thank the other committee members I knew we had talked clearly about 2, and we had voted to maintain 1 and to add 1.
Okay.
So, there we go.
Okay, so we're talking about 1.
Yes.
Good to have this discussion. Councillor Purdon.
I think it is important to note that we have now trained our own staff to do the warrant review. It's a process that's used, and the recommendation comes as a result of that warrant study for crossing guards, and it's very specifically laid out the criteria. I would be concerned for council if the recommendation was to have a crossing guard that was recommended because of the warrant review, and then council overturned that, where you would be in a liability situation if there was an accident or a child was struck by a car. So that would be a concern of mine. So I would like to see the bylaw committee minutes, a motion to approve.
Okay. Okay, is everybody clear on that? We've had some reassurance from our Director of Financial Services that the impact on the budget is going to be negligible, given the surplus that's carried over from last year. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Minutes from the Cultural Advisory Committee, December the 11th. Gearing up for the Cultural Awards. Councillor Adair.
Just wondering, Your Worship, if I could move Cultural Advisory Committee minutes, the Operations Advisory Committee minutes, Parks and Recreation.
Thank you. Discussion on any of those items. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Quick question, either Councillor Chamberlain or Purdon. There's a cruise ship in the Aurelia Harbor? There's several pictures.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting? Now, I see that's one of the lessons learned possibly for Owen Sound, and that's interesting. Yeah. Thank you.
Further discussion? Any of those items? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Glad you're in favor too, Harold. That's awesome. Okay. That's active participatory municipal government, Councillor Purdon. Okay, we have a couple of in-camera meetings, minutes for approval. Council's wish. Councillor Lemon.
I would move we approve the minutes. Can we do them together, or do we have to do them separately?
No, we can do them together.
For December 16th, 2013, for the City of Owen Sound, and the Cultural Advisory Committee meeting held January 10th, 2014, also be approved.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We are at other business, and I thank Councillor Boddy for stepping up to the plate immediately. And we were discussing on the weekend, actually, when we heard the good news that Larisa Yurkiw has achieved her lifelong goal of participating and representing Canada in the 2014 Olympic Games in Sochi. And I can tell you that everyone in this community is absolutely thrilled. This is a tremendous achievement to have an Olympic athlete who has acknowledged Owen Sound as her home, and I can tell you that we're all extraordinarily proud. And we wish her all the very best, and we provided an opportunity for all of council and the community as well to send their best wishes. So we have a City of Owen Sound flag, which is currently in the foyer just outside of the council chambers here at City Hall. And I invite members of the community to come and sign their names, sign their best wishes to Larisa and on her journey, as well as that will be here until the end of this week. And then we're going to move that flag up to the Julie McArthur Regional Recreation Center. And it will then be on display again for another week, where we invite people to continue to go in and sign their best wishes and their greetings just at the reception desk for the Family Y. And we'll then on January 27th, provided that Larissa's parents, one or the other, or both, are able to be here, we'll present them with that flag at our council meeting, and certainly send them our very heartfelt gesture of wrapping the entire community around Larisa and her team as they head out onto the Olympic stage for what is going to be, I'm sure, an unforgettable experience for everyone. So hats off and a huge congratulations to Larisa and her tenacity. If you haven't had a chance to read her story, she is one tough woman, and she's very resilient and is very focused on her sport. So all the credit in the world goes to her and her family for achieving this moment in her career. We have a few other folks who have items of other business as well, and Councillor Wright.
Well, Your Worship, I could not let the night go by without us wishing my fellow Capricornian a happy birthday today, so happy birthday.
To Ruth Corsi, our city manager, happy birthday. Now Meaford and Owen Sound know. There you go. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, my welcome was to the Bruce Gray Child and Family Services, and you actually brought that up very nicely, and it's very nice. I do think it's wonderful that they are in our community and that it's a repurposing of the old Y, and we're very proud of it. So thank you.
Council will be, it's my understanding, we will be receiving an invitation as a group to have a tour. So, yeah. It's a great looking building, yeah. Madam Clerk, you had another item. Has it been addressed? Okay. Yeah, now we'll adjourn this portion of our meeting. We do have some other business to deal with in camera, and I thank the members of the public for tuning in and watching this evening, and I look forward to seeing you in the streets and the hallways of Owen Sound as we go forward in this great new year. Thank you.